Brandon Aiyuk wants to trade. Said enough's enough. Pay me or trade me. What does it mean? Should Washington go get him? Start with Dickie in Arlington. Dickie, do you want him to go get Brandon Aiyuk?
It really depends. If we can do something like a Jahan Dotson in the 7th, De'Ami Brown in the 5th, I'm with it, but no first, second, or third round pick should be involved for that one. He's a head case.
Dotson was a first-round pick just 2 years ago. You got 3 years of control on him at a much reduced rate than you'd have to pay.
With Aiyuk, and if you can get a deal and you have him and Terry for the foreseeable future, that's going to be a great duo to get it done with Jaden.
I really believe.
Thanks for the call, Dickie. Appreciate you, buddy.
The 49ers is not accepting either one of those offers.
That De'Ami at a 5th, no chance.
That's not happening.
De'Ami's going into the last year of his deal.
The thing about it is, like, see, that's why I'm saying don't reach out to them, because they will have the upper hand. They're going to dictate. It's just like in hockey. if you got that final move, that's how they win. They'll have the final move. It'll be tough.
Let's take Steven in Florida real quick. Steve, you want him to go get Aiyuk?
Absolutely. Go get him. If he's available, man, I'd give up a second. I would give up no more than a first.
See, let me ask you this question, Steven. You say absolutely, then you say offer him a second. They're not taking a second?
Nope, but I'd give up a player. They're not going to take De'Ami Brown in the 5th, but second and De'Ami Brown. I'd keep Jahan Dotson, put people in a position where they can be the best they can be every down. Absolutely.
Steve says go get him. Thanks for the call, buddy. Right now, we're excited to bring in Mark Willard from San Francisco, covers the 49ers. Mark, thank you for making time, man. I know this has got to be a busy time. Of course, you can hear Mark on 95.7 The Game out in the Bay Area. What do you make of the Brandon Aiyuk trade request?
Well, I make of this that this is the next step. This is the next step for Brandon, who I don't think has played this perfectly, or should I say the advice from his agents have not been played perfectly. I think everyone has to remember that Brandon does not have leverage here. You know, it's easy to get into situations like this, and it's like, Brandon should leave, or Brandon should do this or that. He is under contract. The 49ers have already floated the idea. They don't like doing this, but they've floated the idea of the franchise tag. Like, they've got Brandon under control for a couple more years. So the idea of a trade request is going to have to sit with the 49ers. And I can promise you that at least right now, it's not. Brandon's got millions of dollars on the line that he's playing with right here and being a little bit risky with right here. I get his position. He doesn't want to budge, but he's in a tough spot, and this is very early. I'll remind you that the other receiver requested a trade 2 years ago as well, and then a couple months later signed a big contract extension.
You're absolutely. And I think when you look at the situation, the other teams that may want to trade for him, they're looking at the fact of what he's requesting and not budging, and they have to think twice about that. I believe Washington, if they're even much involved, they better damn well know what he's willing to accept. And if they decide to trade for him, that number is going to go up a little bit.
Well, and I also really wonder what's really on the line for a trade. If the 49ers wanted to trade Brandon Aiyuk, the time to do it was before the draft.
Right.
And so now you're sitting in a spot where I question what could even be offered back to the 49ers that would interest them. Are they looking at a draft pick now next year? And how does that play in the locker room this year? The 49ers have never had more pressure on them to win the Super Bowl in the whole Kyle Shanahan era than they do this upcoming year. They really missed their best shot last year. And so now everyone's looking at this situation thinking, with Brock Purdy's contract extension looming next year, this is their last best shot to do it. And I have a hard time believing that they're going to openly and willingly weaken themselves by sending their best receiver out the door.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners' goal is to win a Super Bowl. Shipping Aiyuk out doesn't help them win a Super Bowl.
At all.
Brian and I, and Mark, we really appreciate you joining us kind of last second here. Everybody could give Mark a follow at Mark_T_Willard. Does a great job covering the Niners, all things Bay Area on 95.7 The Game. Brian and I have long thought San Fran has a reputation for getting deals done with their guys. Bosa was the week before the season started. Debo asked for a trade. They got a deal done there. Does this still feel to you that this is just negotiation standard BS, or is this starting to feel different?
It's starting to feel a little different. I think this is excessive for two reasons. One, I think Brandon is a little bit more emotional than some of the other guys who have handled this a certain way the last few years. The 49ers play hardball. They do, you're right. They get it done with their guys, but they are very stingy with the way they negotiate their contracts, and it can get emotional at times, and each person handles that differently. Brandon has admitted that he really, really takes it personal, and so that's hard for him. And I think the 49ers are trying to see that aspect and meet him somewhere. The other problem, though, is the timing of all of this, and the timing even in and of itself is twofold. One, the Niners have a big quarterback contract to handle next year. That's not great for Brandon. And the other thing is, I think these negotiations started at a certain number a few months ago. I don't think the two sides were that far apart. And then the wide receiver boom happened, and Brandon and his agent kind of moved the goalposts. And while you could look at that and say, well, that's fair, the market changed, I think the Niners are looking at it and going, sorry, we can't play in that arena, and we were close, and now you're moving the number. And we're not going to just acquiesce to that because you want us to.
See, if I'm Brandon and I'm looking at this, and there's not another team that's sitting up here knocking down the door to say they're willing to pay me what I'm asking for, I'm asking my agents, what's the best deal here? Don't tell me to wait if you can't get me more, and then I'm ending up getting screwed in the end, because a lot of agents like to speak about what they can get, tell you they don't get it.
Well, I think you're spot on in terms of what's really the rub here. And it's not as simple as saying what team will give me that deal, because the 49ers would need to then send him to that team, and the Niners would need to get what they want out of this. And I find all of that to be kind of hard to believe. You gotta look at this through the perspective of what Brandon is risking in order to get what. So in other words, let's say the Niners, and I'm just making numbers up right now, let's say the Niners want to give him 26 and Brandon wants 29. All right, well, that's a $3 million per year difference over 5 years. That's a $15 million difference. Plus, we're talking about the guarantees. Is the guarantee 40? Is it 50? What have you? Let's say what's on the line is somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 to $25 million. Well, here's the other way the Niners can play it. Dude, $14 million this year. That's what's on your contract. We can franchise tag you the next year. That's $24 million. We can force you to stay here for 2 years and $38 million. And if you don't play, you will lose that money. You could crater your value. You could also play and get hurt. This is football. So you are risking millions, tens and tens of millions of dollars over a disagreement that's over 15 to 20. It may not be fair, but it's also, I think in the end, it's bad business for Brandon to play this game of chicken.
Well, the other thing, I'm thinking about this from the Washington perspective, right? We're talking with Mark Willard here. You can hear him on 95.7 The Game out in Northern California, afternoons, covering the Niners, covering it all in the Bay Area. But, dude, if I'm Adam Peters and I know that Niners situation, I know Brandon Aiyuk personally, I know, looking at Washington, could everything break right and all of a sudden they have a pretty magical year and they're a playoff contender? Yes, that can happen, but the odds are it won't. Just wait. I could sign him as a free agent. I might be able to get him for less.
Well, unless you get mad at you and don't want to talk to you because you didn't sign him.
You know what changes feelings? Cash. You know what I mean?
Same thing that happened in this situation.
And I just wonder if the only teams that maybe that would really make sense to want to go get Aiyuk at this point, when you got to give up picks and a whole bunch of cash, would be contending teams, don't you think?
Well, and again, you're not just giving up cash. You're whatever it is that has to go in return to the 49ers. The idea of waiting is interesting. You know, you get him as a free agent. You say that if he even gets the free agency, that's if he gets there healthy. There's so many ifs. And so, look, is he worth a big swing? He is, but I get what you're saying. It's kind of like with the Niners. You have to, if you're any team, you have to look at your own particular timing. Is Washington ready to break the bank and go all in on a wide receiver when you actually are about to start a quarterback who you've never even seen play at the NFL level? Like, does that make sense? I know they're good friends and that's really fun and he is a really good player, but a lot of that to me doesn't necessarily add up for any of the sides. And then the other warning I would throw out to Brandon, like, I would sit Brandon down and have him watch episode 2 of Receivers on Netflix and check out Devontae Adams, because when you're a wide receiver in this league and you've got a good situation, be very careful what you wish for, because you could go to a new city and find yourself with a bad play caller or a bad offensive line or a bad quarterback, and the next thing you know, your numbers go down and your injuries go up, and that can kill your career. It's still a really young player who's on a rookie contract. He's got a lot to be careful with here.
Hey, man, thank you so much for joining us. I know it was last minute. You got to get ready for your show. We really appreciate it, Mark.
Anytime, guys.